Hey guys, now we're going to be going into InDesign and I'm going to show you how to set up everything. Now InDesign is another Adobe app, so just like when you're in Creative Cloud and you installed Photoshop, look for that program called InDesign, and that's the one you want to have installed to actually create your magazine. So once you have it open, this is what it looks like, and I'm going to take you through the process of creating your magazine. Now, don't forget, a lot of the pages we're going to be creating in Photoshop, although a lot of those pages you can create solely in InDesign. The only reason why we're using Photoshop more than InDesign is because we're just more used to that program. But as you get more comfortable in InDesign, everything that you're doing in Photoshop, or most things you're doing in Photoshop, like the text and things like that, you can do it directly in InDesign. Okay, so let's get started. So I'm in InDesign. I can go here to create new, or I can go File, New, Document. Now, once I'm in there, these are the settings that we want to create. So I'm just going to zoom in here on the right side, and I'm going to call this my magazine. Now, if you've got a name for your magazine, so for example, this magazine is called the Vogue magazine, I could call it my Vogue magazine or something similar. Okay. Now, in terms of the measurements, remember we're doing things in pixels. And if you remember from our first video, our magazine was 600 pixels wide and 800 pixels high. So we need to make sure that we have those in the height and width of our magazine as well. Ensure that you have it in pixels and set it to 600 pixels wide, 800 pixels high. Now the next few settings are pretty simple. What do you want your orientation of your magazine to be? Do you want it to be portrait, or do you want it to be landscape? Now we're setting ours to portrait, so make sure that's highlighted. Now, where it says pages, you can put as many pages as you want here. I'm going to show you how to add pages in later on, or delete pages later on anyway. So you can put anything you want here. You could put in, I know default is 1. You could put in 4, 6, 8, whatever you like. I'm going to keep it as 8. Facing pages definitely have that ticked on, and starting page is going to be page number 1. Now, everything else we can leave as the default. We don't need to change anything else here in terms of the margins or anything like that. And once we're happy with it, we hit create. Now I'm just going to show you what you can do. So just like in Photoshop, you can zoom out. So on a Mac, hold down Command and hit minus and plus. On a PC, it's Control minus and plus. So we can zoom out and zoom back in wherever we want. Okay, so I'm just going to go back to the first page, and if I scroll down, you'll see there's my first page. That's where my cover page is going to go, and here are my double pages. So when my first page flips open, these are the pages that's going to be revealed each time I scroll, swipe the page to go to the next page, and there's the back page of my magazine. Now, if I wanted to, I'll just zoom out so you guys can see this. If I wanted to, over here on the right side, I can go to pages. And what that'll do, that will actually allow me to, if I want to, add pages or delete pages. So if I wanted to, I could go to the bottom here and click add, and I can keep adding more pages if I wanted to create more pages in the future. If I didn't want to create more pages, I could delete them as well. So I click on the page and I click delete, and they'll start to delete. Now, at the moment, we're only going to have 8 pages, so I'll just make sure that I've only got the 8 there. Cool, I can close that panel. Okay, I'm going to go back up to the top to my first page, and we're going to bring in our cover page of our magazine. So what you want to do, you want to make sure that you've clicked on the page to make sure it's selected. Go up to File, and then we're going to go to Place. So you go to File and then Place. Clicking on Place will ask your computer what you want to place, and basically what we want to do is find our cover page that we created in Photoshop. And there it is there, magazine cover. And it's a Photoshop file, and we're going to place that in. Now, once I hit open, it's actually stuck to my mouse. Now, what you don't want to do is just click on the page, okay? So if you click on the page, it'll come up wrong, and then you'll try and do things and you might stuff up. So I'm going to show you what to do. So when it's actually following your mouse like this, what you can do is go to the top left corner, and then what you want to do is actually click and hold down the mouse button and drag all the way to the bottom right. So you click and drag and then let go. So you click, hold the button down, the mouse button down, drag all the way to the bottom right. Now let's pretend that that didn't work properly for you and you wanted to resize it. So for example, you clicked and dragged, but then you let go too early. Now, how do I resize this image? Is it like Photoshop where I just grab the handlebars and I can pull it out? No. Okay, so that's something that's really important for you guys to know about. So I'm going to show you how to actually resize an image. When you're resizing, on a Mac, you have to hold down the Command button on your keyboard. On a PC, you have to hold down the Control button. So while I'm holding down Command, I am then allowed to actually resize my image. Okay. Now, if I don't hold down Command, what's actually happening is it's actually cropping my image. So right now I'm not holding down Command, and what you can just see is that it's actually cropped my image. So be really, really careful when you are actually resizing your images. Make sure you, on a Mac, holding down Command, or on a PC, you're holding down Control, and then you're also resizing it. Okay. Now, another thing to note is if you double click on the image, you actually end up moving the image away from its container. Now, how I did that and how you can notice if you double click on an image and that you're in that is that the outside of the image will go orange. And see that, how it just went orange just now? So you don't want it to be orange, you want it to be blue when you select it, and then you can resize. Okay, just another fun tip for you guys, just to make sure that you guys are doing it correctly. Now I'm going to show you guys how to do that again from scratch. So I'm going to delete this image, nothing's on my canvas. I click on the page, I go to File, I go to Place, I bring in my Photoshop image, magazine cover, I go to the top left and I click and I drag down to the bottom right. Perfect. Now the great thing about having it as a Photoshop file and bringing it in as a Photoshop file is this. Now I'm going to go into my folder and I'm going to actually open up the magazine cover. And I'm going to change something on the magazine cover. I'm going to change it completely, okay, just so we can see. Okay, let's grab some colors here. I'm going to huge red blob here. Let's change the color again. Now you don't have to do this. This is just a demonstration. So just watch and see what's happening. So all I've done is created a new layer and I'm just pouring color all over this canvas. Okay, and now I'll just go into the blend mode and I'm just going to change that blend mode. Let's have a look. Mm. Oh yeah, that looks pretty cool. All right, so we've changed the way this magazine looks. I'm going to hit File and hit Save and close my Photoshop file and go back into InDesign. Now, if I wanted to bring that new version of my cover into InDesign, I don't have to delete this and then bring it back in. What you'll notice when you make changes to your Photoshop file is there's a little warning or caution mark that comes up on your image within InDesign. And if you double click on that, it will actually update to the latest version of our magazine cover. Okay, so that is one of the best benefits of using a Photoshop file and bringing it into InDesign, that they're all connected. Now I'm just going to go back and actually delete that layer that I created. Let's resave this as it was. Get out of Photoshop, back into InDesign. You'll see that because my Photoshop file has changed, I've got a little indication here, and I can double click on that and it'll update the picture. So that's how you are going to create your Photoshop files and link them into your InDesign files. Now, we're going to create a table of contents and we're going to link that Photoshop file into InDesign as well. Now, I'm going to show you what we're going to create because I've already got it created in Photoshop. Let's have a look. Contents. So this is what we're going to create. And it's a pretty simple contents page. And you can completely change this however you want. I've just got the title contents, I've got some shapes in there, the page numbers and the titles. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. So again, we're going back into Photoshop for this. Although you can do this completely in InDesign, we're going to do it in Photoshop and then we're going to bring that image into Photoshop. Okay, so let's get started. We're in Photoshop, we're going to go File, New. Now the settings for this is going to be slightly different to our cover page. So let's type in contents page for the name of the document. The width and height, initially we had our width as 600 pixels and 800 pixels. And we had our resolution around 300, 150 to 300 is good. Now, because this is a double page, we're actually designing 2 pages. So when you open up your cover and you spread open the magazine, you're seeing 2 pages. So if that's the case, what would be the difference in these settings here? It's going to be the width. So we're going to double the width. So it's actually going to be 1200 pixels. It's going to be the same height because the magazine doesn't get longer in terms of its height. It just gets wider in terms of its width as you open up the magazine. So everything else we can keep as is, and we're going to hit OK. And there's our magazine. And we can zoom into that. So imagine the magazine cover was here, you flipped it open, and now you've got a double page. Now, it's really, really important to know where the page actually flips. So, if you go up to the very top of Photoshop and you go to View, you'll see there's a thing called Rulers. Make sure you've got that enabled. So that's under View Rulers. Now, when you have Rulers enabled, you'll see on the left side here and at the top of Photoshop, you've got a ruler. Now what you can do with that ruler is actually you can click on it and drag out lines. And these can be guidelines, and you can drag out as many as you want. And you can drag some out from here as well. And the guidelines are really, really cool because when you save your Photoshop file, the guidelines disappear. So they don't actually get saved. They're only there to help you create what you want in Photoshop. Now, I'm going to get rid of these guidelines that I created. So I'm just going to just click on it and drag them away. Click on it and drag them away. Click on that one and drag that away. Now, I do want to create one guideline, and it's going to be in the middle of this Photoshop canvas, so I know where the pages are going to be flipping. So I'm going to go over to this left side rule. I'm going to click on it and drag it out, and I'm going to go over towards the middle of my Photoshop canvas. And what you'll realize is as you're moving and you get close to the middle, it's actually going to click into place. It's going to click in. You'll actually kind of feel it. It clicks ever so slightly, and that's when you know you're exactly halfway. I'll try and zoom in so you guys can see that. But as I'm moving my mouse, it actually clicks right there at 10:16. It clicks in and it's almost got a little bit of a hold there, and that's where I let go. Cool. So now we've created our double page and we're ready to start designing. Okay, so first thing we want to do is bring in a background image. Now, you don't have to have a background image, it's completely up to you. I just think it'll look nice. Something that's going to spread over the double page. Now, I could go online and find different ideas and different images to use, and look up actual contents pages of magazines and just go on Google Images or Bing and just look up, how Vogue does it, how Time Magazine does it, and try and get some ideas from them. But if you just wanted to follow along with the tutorial, we've actually got the background image in the bit.ly Google Drive folder, so just grab it from there. So I'm just going to go and place that image in. So I'm going to go File, Place Embedded, and I'm going to get my contents background in, and I'm just going to stretch that out so it fills up the entire page. Cool. So now the next thing is we're going to create a title, and we're just going to write contents up here on the top left. Now you can have it as any color you like, you can make it any size you like, you can even change the font type if you don't want that particular font type. So get creative and see what type of styles you can figure out, and all of those options are at the top here. So font type, font size, even font color. So if you wanted to change the color, you can change the color of that as well. Okay, so I'll just get out of that one actually. Now, some people might actually like to do something like this. I'll just go back to a font type that looked nice. There we go. And let's make this bigger. I'm just going to create another text layer and resize that, make it smaller, and then we can actually move it and we can put it anywhere we want. Just make it look kind of a little bit cooler. Contents, so it's completely up to you. You can have it as one word, design it how you like, completely up to you. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to grab some shapes. So I'm just going to go down here and I'm going to use the rectangle tool, and I'm just going to draw a thin rectangle straight down. Now it is blue, so I'll go up to the top here where it says fill, and I'll click on that and I'll just change it. I'm going to make it black. Again, you can make it any color you like. So on the left side, I'm going to have the page numbers, and on the right side, I'm going to have what is on that page. Now, you may not know what you're going to create on each page, but for now, you could probably just put in the page numbers and some generic text that you're going to change later on. So over here, I'll just move that up. Let's try that again. Okay, over here I'm just going to write, so the cover page is page 1, the contents page is page 2 and 3, so we're going to start with page 4, and I'm just going to write 04, here we go, and I'm just going to use the arrows on my keyboard to move it into place. I'm going to duplicate this text, so because we've got 8 pages, so I'm going to right click on it and just go duplicate layer, and I'm going to call it 06, and then I'm going to duplicate that one and call it 08. And I'll get the moving tool and I'll just move it because I've duplicated it and they're just sitting on top of each other. Now obviously I need to change the text inside there, so that's going to be page 6, that's going to be page 8, and I want some text that's going to be in the pages. So for now, because I'm not sure what I'm going to be putting on there, I'm just going to write some generic text that says something like, actually the first page will make it an article, or actually an interview with Ariana. And then let's duplicate that one as well. And let's bring that down, and we can duplicate it again and bring that down. And later on, once we know what we're going to be what we're going to actually put on these pages, we can come back and actually edit these pages. But at least we know that that's on page 4, that's on page 6, and that's going to be on page 8. Okay, cool. Now, on the bottom of these pages, I want to put the page number in. So remember, our cover page is page number 1. The contents page is going to be page 2. So right down here, I'm just going to write 02, and I'm actually going to reduce the opacity, this one right here. And the reason I'm going to do that is just so it's not so strong in our face. And I'll duplicate that layer and I'll drag it all the way on this side. And this is going to be page 3. Now, if you didn't like the 02, 03 style that I'm writing, you could just write page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4. It's completely up to you. You don't have to put the page numbers in. I just thought it was a nice design idea. Okay, so this page I think is ready. It's done. You could add more to it. There's obviously a lot more we could do to this page, but we'll keep it simple for now. Let's go File, and we're going to go Save As. And we're going to put it in the same folder, the Year 7 magazine folder, and we're going to name this the contents page. And if you wanted to, you could name it page 2-3, something like that, just so you knew. And I'm going to hit save on that. Now, we don't have to be in Photoshop anymore, so let's get out of it. We're back into InDesign. We've got our cover page in there. Now we want to bring in our contents page. So remember, I click on the page and I go up to File and I go to Place. Once I've clicked on Place, it's going to ask me what I want to bring into that page. And what I want to bring in is the Photoshop file that I just created, the contents page. And I'm going to hit Open. Now again, it's following my mouse around. So what I do is go to the top left corner. I click and hold my mouse down and I drag to the bottom right corner, and it should match perfectly. Now if it doesn't match, that means that you did not create your canvas size to 600 pixels wide and 800 pixels high, but it should match perfectly. If it doesn't, remember, on a Mac, hold down Command, on a PC, hold down Control, and then you can resize it if you need to. Okay, really important to hold down Command if you're using a Mac, or hold down Control if you're using a PC when you are resizing. Awesome. So we've got our cover page in there. We've got our table of contents in there. We're going to be creating a few other things. So before we actually create the other pages, we want to actually be able to link these pages. So that's what we're going to show you guys in the next video. Next video is going to be really short. It's going to show you how to hyperlink these buttons so that they will go to the other page automatically. And I'll show you an example of that. So if we go to our finished magazine and I go to my contents page, instead of actually clicking the buttons to go to the next page or go back, I can actually go to the very last page straight away by just clicking on that button straight away. So that's pretty cool about the contents page. It's a little bit of a shortcut to go to something that you might want to see straight away. So that's what we're going to be doing next video, guys.